welcome, folks. This is Dave White sitting in for the one and only Tom O'Brien. Be here in the 4 to 5 hour. I'll be doing a webinar at 5:30 for my subscribers too. So if you are one, warm up the seat and get ready. We've got a lot of stuff going on today. And of course, market's down 9.5 points on the S&P cash, 3.5 billion shares on the New York Consolidated Tape. When we look at the NASDAQ, not so bad, just off 14 points, 1.8 billion shares. Of course, the real news is the Dow, and Walmart came out and dropped the proverbial Baby Ruth in the punch bowl. What are we talking about? Yeah, pretty decent volume. And of course, the worst trading day for Walmart in some, maybe 15 years, I think. So that's it. So anyway, we have a great day going on here, and we will continue to try to figure out what's going on. Earnings after the bell, I don't see it yet. Keeping an eye out. Netflix, of course, after the bell. That's going to be a big deal out here. Couldn't really tell from Netflix, just kind of sideways action about what's going on. But what else can you say about it other than that? We're just going to have to wait and hear what they see. Of course, great deal of what was going on in Netflix price movement was them getting into other markets, basically Japan, China, the Pacific Rim companies, and of course raising their premium for their subscription $1, which certainly helps a lot to the bottom line. We're going to find out more about that shortly, and of course we're going to get into Goldman Sachs in the morning, some other earnings. So have a good time. Anyway, feel free to give me a call here at 877-927-6648, and we'll try to go through as many stocks as we can. And what else is there to say other than that? Let's get this party started. I always like to do a little history to get my programs off.
That it's all just a little bit of history repeating.
On this day in 1962, the Cuban Missile Crisis begins on October 14th. That's today. In 1962, bringing up the United States and the Soviet Union to the brink of nuclear conflict, photographs taken by high-altitude U-2 spy planes offered an incontrovertible evidence that Soviet-made medium-range missiles in Cuba capable of carrying nuclear warheads were now stationed 90 miles off the American coastline. And, my dad was a Air Force colonel and was a U-2 pilot, although he never told me of the really sneaky stuff he did. To tell me about all the stuff he did in the 50s, flying around when they were letting off all those atomic bombs out there on those little atolls. I got a lot of background on that. But on this day, probably the closest we've been to launching missiles ever at each other. I think there was one other time, but I think it was just a couple weeks after this. It had to do with a rogue captain of a submarine that thought maybe the thing to do was fire his nuclear torpedo. Well, thank God he didn't do it. Of course, if you want to talk about an atomic bomb, it was a Walmart today. Capital investments will be approximately $11 billion for fiscal year 2017 and remain flat in the fiscal years 2018 and 19. This is all about upgrading their stores and their technology. Walmart has fallen on times where it has become almost Kmart-like-ish. That is, a lot of the stores are in areas of declining just niceness. Let's put it that way. And a great deal of these stocks tend to be, these stores tend to, or some of their stores tend to be in older areas. They need to move them to better areas and better actually compete against companies like Target a little bit more upstream. Once you start getting that kind of, patina on you of other folks that kind of just down market, It seems maybe we are kind of seeing the Kmartization. I'll just add that as a new word. But of course, worst trading day in about 15 years. I don't know if you can say anything other than kind of very interesting to see that we're only down 10 points on the S&P cash. So we'll think about that. Other things of interest today, of course, were the stocks. It is a rumor palooza in the markets today. U2, the band or the plane? He actually flew the plane. And somewhere I think I have a manual for it. That and a DC-3 manual laying around. Wanted to get to actual charts out here. Probably a lot of people really saying, well, two things, Walmart and the stocks are what they're talking about. That's the semiconductor in nothing but rumors, and more rumors. Very surprising. My comment when those things came out was it seems almost desperate and or frantic to get some of these things back up. But we did have volume, and we did get back up to at least the last major gap down in the semiconductor index. That was the day of, August 11th. Came down with about 722,000 shares. We were up on 950,000 shares, but it basically got to that point where everything started coming back down to those August 24th lows. But from everything we see from EMC earlier this week, the same thing. In fact, let's pop that up. Just seems to me like a lot of people wishing and hoping and praying at the very end of a market. You've got to think that things are very close to the end. I suspect that they will hold this market up, though, for the next couple of days into expiration. Volume, we ended up with 3.5 billion shares on the New York Consolidated tape. In the previous times, when these markets have rolled, we've been in the 4 and almost 5 billion share days. That just makes me think that we can have at least another couple of days. There's enough of these stocks that are fairly weak. Again, I'll be doing my webinar after the show tonight. But kind of interesting to see how many of these sectors actually held in today and or went up with huge amounts of negativity. Negativity, I do say, from the financial infotainment cable stations who were all throwing mud at this market. You would think it was going to be down 50 points on the S&P cash. 10 seems light for the news of today. We'll be back in a minute. Give me a call, 877-927-6648.